Hello guys, how are you today? So this is our nine, right? Nine meeting, and then it's about logic as a representation of a meaning. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So this is the learning outcomes. Students are able to identify validity, soundness, and logical forms, propositional logic, logic as a representation and perfection of meaning, definite descriptions, logic, and language. And let's move on to the next slide. And this is about validity, soundness, and logical form. Logic may be defined as the study of a valid reasoning and inference. On this definition, logic investigates the properties of valid chains of reasoning and specifies the conditions which these chains must meet in order to be valid, in order to work as an argument. And consider the following exchange. This one. A. Coco is a primate, so she likes daytime television. What? I don't get it. All primates like a daytime television. So initially, B is unable to follow A's line of thought, and as the result, A is forced to state the general principle of which her conclusion rests. This allows us to reconstruct A's original train of thought as the following argument of syllogism. This is the explanation. All primates like daytime television, and Coco is a primate, therefore Coco likes daytime television. So this argument just reveals the explicit logical structure of a command, and as Neil explained in 1962, page 12, it is like this. From first tentative step toward logical thinking are taken when men try to generalize about valid arguments and to extract from some particular valid argument a form or principle which is common to a whole class of valid arguments. So given the meaning of the words all, like, and is, the conclusion Coco likes daytime television just has to be true as long as we accept the truth of the proposition that all primates like daytime television. It seems likely that it was in a domain like mathematics, especially geometry, that the needs to make the principle of valid reasoning explicit first arose, and in modern times, the study of logic has been particularly undertaken in the attempts to symbolize the types of reasoning that underlie mathematical arguments. So logic is important to linguistics for at least three reasons. First, the study of logic is one of the oldest comprehensive treatments of questions and meaning. When people first began to think systematically about the meanings of language and the relation between this meaning, it was logical concept to which they often appeal for explanations. As a result, the tradition of logical analysis, which we can trace as far back as Aristotle, perhaps, provides a rich body of reflection of meaning, and most scholars who have studied meaning in the Western tradition have had at least some knowledge of logical principles. The relevance of logic to linguistics is far from simply historical. However, logical concepts inform a wide range of modern formal theories of semantics, and also crucial in research in computational theories of language and meaning. We will not be exploring formal theories in themselves here, but our exposition of some fundamental logical ideas will provide some background for those who wanting to do so. Lastly, Logical concepts provide an enlightening point of contrast with natural language. The basic logical concepts are accessible for practically anyone. Indeed, many philosophers have seen in logical principles the universal laws of thought which constitute the background of human rationality. Immanuel Kant says, logic is the science that exhaustively presents and strictly proves nothing but the formal ground rules of all thinking. And the first two propositions are called the premises. An argument premise may be defined as a starting point and one of the propositions from which the conclusion follows. In the last proposition, note that the validity of arguments of a chain of reasoning has a special relationship to the words in which the premises and conclusion may be stated. Substitute different words and the argument may not be valid. None of the following argument, for instance, is valid. Next. Logic as a presentation and perfection of meaning. Our exposition of the prepositional connectives and or not on if there has revealed that their truth functional definition are quite often counterintuitive and unnatural, failing to correspond to the norm of ordinary English. None of the operators correspond perfectly with any English equivalent. So, another example of the discontinuity between natural language and logical operators is provided by negation. Given principles which we have not made fully explicit here, but which are reasonably obvious, to negative cancel each other out, giving a positive statement. Thus, the proposition P logically equivalent to V. This logical principle is well understood by educated speakers of English who regularly avoid the use of double negative like does in. I'm gonna tell you this one. This is the example. He didn't say nothing. Are you going to spend your whole life not trusting anyone? So nobody here didn't point on no gun to at nobody. So it ain't no way of girls can wear no platform to no amusement park. So I think that's all for the brief definition, and I hope you enjoy it, and don't be hesitant to ask me if you have any question. Okay, see you, bye bye.